harder the conflict, the greater the triumph.
A fiercest serpent may be overcome by a swarm of ants.
Lead me, follow me, or get out of my way. Age wrinkles the body, quitting wrinkles the soul.
Battle buddies.
Battle buddies.
What is that?
That's me. That's me running through different ways to say it. How do you say it?
Al-Qaeda.
Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda.
Check. There we go.
Check two.
Oh, yeah.
Sacramento, we are live.
Come on.
Come on, dear, closer. Come on. Al-Qaeda.
Check. Oh, yeah.
Arrivederci.
It was interesting going to your son's birthday party when I was talking to your brother. And I was like, hey, man, long time no see. And he's like, long time no see, but not long time no hear. Because I've listened to hours and hours of you talking.
Yeah.
It was intense. I wasn't ready for that.
My brother is kind of a tall person.
Yeah, I thought we were going to talk about Dune.
I'm sure he would have liked to talk about that. He did agree to doing a nuclear episode.
Did he?
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. It was interesting overhearing him talk about just being on submarines while doing like final exercises in A school for the Navy. And I was like, it's just crazy to hear people talk about that shit. Like,
it's wild.
Isn't it weird that you just volunteered to do that?
Yeah, like you said, I will do that for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were going to keep talking, and then one of Ben's kids pulled the pacifier out of one of my kids, and then that was the thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I spent most of my time doing.
Being a parent.
Yep.
Being a parent is fun, ladies and gentlemen.
It is hella fun.
It is. It's also very exhausting.
It's so exhausting.
It's crazy to think that I'm gonna be thinking about my children for the rest of my existence.
I know.
It's not gonna stop. But that's okay. That's a good thing. It's good to have a constant in life.
My kids remind me of like little things that I'm getting older. Like Jude, I was trying to I think we're just tickling or fighting or something tonight. He's like, why are your hands so cold? I was like, oh yeah, I used to be the one that was always hot all the time. But now, as I get older, like I'm cold all the time in my hands. I can't stop it. It's something I battle with.
Man, I once saw a commercial for Jägermeister, and it was like showing this like ice queen. She's like in this ice palace, and she takes a shot of Jägermeister, and the narrator comes on and says, Jägermeister, cold, just like the Germans.
Really?
I swear to God. Yeah, it's okay to be racist towards Germans. We can still do that.
Yeah.
I guess.
It's hard to defend it. You're like, hey, you can't be racist against the Germans.
Immediately I regret saying that. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Battle Buddies. We are so happy and pleased to be recording to you from our studio.
Yeah, we have a heater. I just plugged in the new.
It's nice. Oh, it says Big Buddy, kind of like Battle Buddy.
It is kind of like Battle Buddies.
That's fun. It's one of our buddies here today.
And we make jokes about how our moms are the ones that listen, but
Hi, Mom.
But we do have like a few people that listen to every single episode, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, dude.
So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. There's 34 people on Spotify who have subscribed to our shit. So, dude, like from the bottom of my soul, like I appreciate everyone listening to us right now, truly. And welcome to an episode where we will be doing a little bit of a background on Al-Qaeda.
So is this a hip pocket report?
Al-Qaeda. I can't say it's a hip pocket report because so ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be talking about Islamic extremism today. And
Woo.
yeah, fun stuff. And to get ready for this, I read a book called The Looming Tower, which chronicles the rise of Al-Qaeda and goes all the way to 9/11. Now, I would say about 35 to 40% of this book is just background on Al-Qaeda. And the rest of the book is really about how the FBI and CIA knew a ton of information on this and did not share information with each other. And the lack of sharing information with each other is pretty much why 9/11 was able to happen.
Damn.
Yeah. So I genuinely, if you are a huge conspiracy theorist and you're like, I watched Loose Change, read The Looming Tower because it's going to answer a lot of your conspiracy theories. So that's what we're doing today. I read The Looming Tower by, let me make sure to say who it's by. That's like a thing I should say probably. It was an amazing book. It's The Looming Tower, Al-Qaeda and the Road to 9/11 by Lawrence Wright. It won a Pulitzer Prize. It was a phenomenal read. I was reading it on an airplane on my way to Mexico. Don't do that.
No.
Don't do that. Please.
Dude, you were just in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
4 people were just fucking kidnapped in Mexico. 2 of them died.
Donde?
In one of the border states. And
was
okay.
it? Oh, wait. Oh, from Texas, right?
It's really bad.
Okay, I saw a little bit of something about this. Can we wait for an Eddie's episode to dive into that? Because that's a whole thing.
That's a whole thing.
Yeah. So before we get into our little story of Al-Qaeda, let me just start by saying we have nothing against Islam.
No,
Here at
Islam's
Battle
cool.
Buddies. It actually it kind of is. I have read the first surah chapter of the Quran. It's called The Cow. It was really cool how they compared the cow wandering from grass to grass and how sometimes people wander from patch to patch and not really like focusing on anything. It was like a cool little metaphor on life. So just to say, like, this is not us slandering Islam.
No.
The majority of Muslims are not extremists.
Yeah.
Just like the majority of extremists, like Mormons, are not like
fundamentalists.
Right.
And most Christians aren't
correct
card-carrying members of the KKK.
Totally. Yes, exactly. So like, I mean, to give an example, just to let people know, like, that I'm not some narrow-minded, like, we got to kill all Muslims. Like, I'm not saying that. When I was in Afghanistan, in Marja, south Afghanistan, southern Helmand province, I was in a tent that was the base that I was on was like highly overpopulated. And our interpreter, Bashir, was in the tent that I was kind of should have been in, right? So I was supposed to go sleep in the like Afghan National Army's tent. But the people in that tent, like the natives of Afghanistan, were like, we wake up super early for like prayer. And like, I don't know if like you really want to be like sleeping for that. And like my interpreter Bashir was like, bro, I'll go sleep with them, dude. It's all chill. So like some of the nicest people on planet Earth that I have met are of, Islamic belief, and it's like, it's fine. Everything's cool.
Yep.
So we are focusing on a very, very, very specific type of Islamic extremism, and we're not judging those who read the Quran and it's changed their life, and like that's all good and dandy.
Yeah, I've only had a couple spiritual moments in my entire life, and some of them have been at like holy sites in India when I got to see different like burial ceremonies of like of like the different saints or whatever they are, that had to do with Islam, and they were intense. Like it was really cool.
Oh, dude, I bet.
Like different shrines, and we'd like go in, and it'd be like fathers and sons like putting like tapestries over like a coffin. And just watching the ceremonies and the rituals, like, oh my God, like I'm really feeling something in this moment. Yeah,
That's
nothing
cool.
against that.
Yeah. But we are going to talk really like a lot of shit about like kind of like just ideals and things
Fuck
today.
all extremists. You
Yes.
believe whatever you want, just don't hurt people.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
We can all agree with that.
If you can't, then maybe turn off this episode.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Now that we got that out of the way,
Nazis are assholes.
not anti-Nazi. I'm going to say
There we go.
anti-Nazi.
Really pushing the boundaries here.
Yeah, that's a novel idea you have about Nazis, Evan.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else that we want to? Anything else you want to add before we begin our little journey here?
No, I'm ready.
Our story begins in November of 1948, when a middle-aged writer and educator named Saeed Qutb set sail to New York from Egypt on a cruise ship to begin his new American lifestyle.
Okay.
Qutb was a typical middle-class Egyptian, which means that he was anti-communist and considered an extreme Egyptian nationalist. Like many of his Egyptian middle-class comrades, he was radicalized by the same thing that laid the foundation for Islamic extremism and the hatred for what would be further regarded as the West.
Yeah. This is what you talked about in the At Ease last week.
Oh, just hating the West?
Yeah, like that it comes from Egypt on this.
Yeah.
Fuck.
So the radicalization stems from the British occupation of Egypt and the King Farouk's complicity on the matter considering his payment from the colonists. Egypt participated in many anti-British protests, with the main message being, "Get the British the hell out of Egypt and bring our complicit king with you."
Ooh, little Sepoy rebellion. Shout out to 18th century India.
Yeah, shout out to that. You see, the Muslims at the time of British occupation started to see the West as a single cultural entity. The distinctions between capitalism and Marxism, Christianity and Judaism, fascism and democracy were insignificant by comparison with the single great divide in Saeed Qutb's mind. In a simple sentence, Islam is on the east and the Christian West is on the other.
So when they say the West, are they saying America or like also fuck Canada and like
Totally.
Mexico? I don't like them.
Well, I don't know if necessarily like
They don't even register.
So I'm going to kind of get into it a little bit, but the West in their mind, like the way that I want our listeners to think of this and the way that I want you to think of this is that the West is essentially materialism.
Okay.
That's what they mean by the West in their minds. And so with that covered, we will now be referring to Qutb as the Islamic Q, namely because it is easier to say Q than Qutb.
Yeah.
No offense to anybody with the last name Qutb.
Yeah.
Okay. After World War II, the United States had set itself apart from Europe in the facade of being more accepting of outsiders, where even the Arab world could immigrate to the United States in the hope of creating their own communities, which they have and definitely still do. Here in the Bay Area of California, specifically Benicia and Berkeley, we have a huge Muslim community, specifically those of which are from Afghanistan and Pakistan. If any of you have not had Pakistan or Afghan food, it is fucking delicious.
Really good.
Yeah, go to Berkeley. The disconnect would again reach Muslims' minds when the United States had provided aid and care to the state of Israel after World War II. As Q was sailing to the United States from Egypt, the Arab world was in the final stages of losing the war that established Israel as the Jewish state within the confines of what the Arabs considered their own land. The Arabs were pretty embarrassed by how badly the Israeli fighters absolutely spanked them and showed the incompetence of the Arab fighters and military leaders. So we're kind of getting a little idea here of like why there's some like anti-Jewish rhetoric.
Yeah.
within that
What
community.
year is that? Is that conflict?
So there was the 19s. There was a lot of wars. And so listeners, I am glossing over a lot of these things because here at Battle Buddies, I hope to go back and deep dive certain battles from like the 1967 war, the Israel-Palestine war. These are conflicts that are so large that I do kind of have to like paraphrase.
Yada.
Yeah, I do. Unfortunately,
that's fine.
Unless we want to be here for 8 hours.
No. When you say Q though, it keeps reminding me of like I'm thinking Star Trek Next Generation, just like the best antagonist, protagonist. Q would just, hey, Captain Kirk. No, not Captain Kirk. Picard. Just
The
send
best
him.
one, the best captain.
He's the best captain.
He is. He truly is. But we're biased because we grew up in the 90s.
We did.
And the Next Generation was just fire.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Like the hallways were, they had like house plants in the hallways on the spaceship.
And Riker's relationship with what's her face, like what a complicated relationship for me to really dissect, even as an adult. My wife and I are watching it like, that is complicated.
Do you guys like watch Trek at all?
We'll watch the first few seasons of Next Generation sometimes.
It's fun.
It's good.
Yeah, I really
It's great
enjoy
television.
It. I was a huge Worf fan growing up.
Yeah.
And then also
When you're a kid, Worf is a lot more badass than when you're older. And you're like, you can barely somersault in that.
and then LaForge.
Yeah.
I grew up wearing glasses, so LaForge was also obviously a huge thing for me.
Cool.
This intense shame and embarrassment of losing this war would shape the Arab personality more profoundly than any other event in modern history. Excuse me. I hate those Westerners and despise them, Q would later write in his book after President Truman endorsed the transfer of 100,000 Jewish refugees into Palestine. Q hated England, France, the Dutch, and Americans all equally. So there's your question about like,
Yeah, there we go. That's the West.
Yeah, that's the West.
I like that it's equal. Like, I don't hate the French more, just about as much.
Yeah. So you see, it's really weird, right? When this land of Palestine, other nations are being like, we're just going to send, Jewish refugees there. When people of, Islamic descent are like, but that's our land?
Right.
Now, Q still enjoyed the presence of women, but as many other young kids growing up in religious conservatism know, sex is a highly threatening and serious act that can only be described as an intimidating sin that threatens one's salvation. Man, you know what I used to view like sex as?
What?
After my dad gave me the talk in like fifth grade, I was 11. I used to think that Christians like would reluctantly like get naked. A man would like sit on a chair, super like stoic faced, get a boner, and a woman would just go and sit on the ween, and then that would be it, and they would be done and be like, oh, got that out of the way.
Oh no. I'm so happy I didn't grow up religious.
I know, dude. You when I tell you about like my view towards sex, sometimes you're like, I don't understand.
No, like I remember my mom's talk, but it was her cutting my hair because that's just what you do in Vacaville when you're blue collar living the dream.
Your mom cut your hair?
Until I was last year. Like she's always doing that.
Shout out to my mom. She cut my hair as well. And
she had her clippers and she like held them really close to my ear so they got really loud. And he's like, you know that you have to respect all women, right? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, okay. And then she kept cutting and I was like, I think that was the talk. I think that's my mom's only real rule is like, you just don't do anything a woman doesn't want to do. I'm like, I got that, Mom.
And so then your dad comes home, cracks open a beer, and you're like, I think I got the talk today. He's like, are you going to respect all women? You're like, I sure am.
It's so good.
Now, Q has many stories that he wrote about denying sex from drunk American women. As time went on...
Just throwing themselves at him.
Dude, actually, yes. Like,
yeah?
For real, yeah.
Damn.
As time went on and sex never happened, Q found himself using religion as an excuse to steer clear of sexual pleasure as opposed to just simply being astronomically frightened of the idea. This is important, listeners, to like just kind of
The plot of 40-Year-Old Virgin.
It just never happened.
Yeah.
Sexual oppression is kind of just a part of extremism, folks. Like either you do all of it all the time with like people with no consent, or you like try to not do it at all, and that just creates problems.
Yeah.
Sometimes human beings do it.
Yeah.
With other consenting people who want to do it.
I think, do you know the best line of it? When he's like, I can't believe she did that. And then the stepmom says, I think kids get bored and then they have sex. I'm like, thanks.
Yeah. And then the dad's like, I didn't know he had it in him.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I forgot he said that. I want to punch him in his dick.
Oh, I love that movie. All right.
So sex bad.
Sex bad.
The West bad.
West bad. Fire bad. It was among this self-righteous and truly disciplined identity that Q would proceed to become a man that convinced many young Arabs to shake and rattle the Muslim world. Q would exploit young men looking for purpose and meaning in their lives to fulfill what would soon be called a jihad, and ultimately lead to Islamic extremism with the likes of Al-Qaeda.
So you said disciplined. So he is disciplined. Like, he is not just like a guy we make fun of for being a frumpy dude. Like, he also is this other guy who is like, I have a mission.
Totally, man. I mean, so these are going to be Sunni Muslims, which I will get into the distinction later. Now,
between Sunni and Sufi?
Shiite.
Shiite, okay.
Now, Sunnis are essentially adhere to the Prophet, to a T. Sunnis are 90% of the world's Muslims. They're Sunni, and they just follow, the Quran to a T, and they think that, they should adhere to what the Prophet adhered to. And so absolutely, truly disciplined because you're praying 5 times a day, keeping everything super clean, making sure that you follow the commandments of I don't think it's called a commandment, so I apologize if I'm not using the correct vernacular or nomenclature, but yeah, disciplined for sure.
Way to use nomenclature. Way to be disciplined in that. Nomenclature, the naming of things.
Thanks, Mr. Parker.
I have tried to use nomenclature for the last 2 weeks, and I have not found an opportunity.
It's kind of like the word Fortnite. Every once in a while, you get to sneak it in there.
It's nice.
Yeah, man, I would argue that anybody who practices a religion would be disciplined, man. I mean,
That's
there's
true.
a lot of rules and just regulations, and yeah, it takes discipline. I think that's kind of actually the allure to it.
I would say, because growing up, I was a little envious of the religious folk. Because they did have something that was gritty, right? Like, they had something that they had to go there on Sundays.
And Wednesdays for youth group. The youths.
Yeah, they started invading our Frisbee groups,
Oh, no.
Yeah, you can't just play Frisbee. This dude's going to come talk about Jesus a little bit.
Blessed be the name of the Lord.
I will say, though, all the music stuff I listen to, and I'm always checking out audio things. Church music is legit.
You know what, dude?
Fucking love it.
If it's one thing that you can say about the Christians, they got metal pretty good. Christian metal is fucking amazing.
It's awesome.
I went to an August Burns Red concert recently. Yeah. That's Christian music.
Under Oath. I saw Under Oath. I was like, this is
amazing.
Yes, Jesus, I'm ready to come home. Screamo moment.
That song is so good.
Yeah, that song's great.
Yeah, dude, the Christians got that right, dude. The music is pretty good. DC Talk, shout out to Jesus Freak. Now, in the United States at the time, anti-communist rhetoric was becoming extremely popular and isolating the United States from the likes of China and South America. Even the popular evangelist Billy Graham would preach about the dangers of communism in the American West and on people's Christian values. Are you familiar with Billy Graham?
No.
Okay. He's a pretty popular evangelist.
Does he have a private jet?
Dude, honestly, probably. At the time, probably. I mean, his son is also of the same. Dude, my dad became a Christian because of Billy Graham.
Really?
Yeah. So Billy Graham would have these huge concerts that were,
Is this like the Andrew Garfield character? Did Andrew Garfield play him
from Under the Banner of Heaven?
No, Andrew Garfield played evangelical, and he
Oh, interesting.
It was about, I don't know, one of the television evangelicals.
So this is kind of,
but he was gay.
This was the genesis of that.
Okay.
And Billy Graham was not gay, but a huge stadium preacher who would he would always do a call to altar where people would become Christians, and that's how my dad actually became a Christian, was at a Billy Graham little thing.
Do you mind if I ask you a personal question here?
Please ask me a personal question.
Because you practiced for a long time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you still, and for what we know, because you and I have gone into the occult pretty deep,
mm-hmm.
and those listeners that don't know, we're in it. We know all about our right hand and left hand magics. And you were clearly practicing right hand magic. Do you still partake in any like right hand magic? And for listeners that don't know, right hand magic is like you trying to ascend and like connect with God. And so do you still do any of those things?
No, dude.
No? And do you
No.
feel like does it feel weird not doing those things?
I mean, it did for a while. I would say
Yeah.
it did. So, I stopped really kind of being a practicing Christian, when I was in my teenage years.
Okay.
Mainly because I just really I didn't really enjoy the community of human beings at the churches that I grew up going to.
Right.
And that said a lot about like what it was for me. I did enjoy learning about like theology and like
Sure.
reading different discussing different interpretations of the Bible was really cool to me. It was like a bunch of nerds talking about Magic the Gathering.
Yeah, like everyone's talking about ideas and
so like even me and my dad like enjoyed doing stuff like that. And then when I went overseas to Afghanistan and I saw how religion can infect an entire culture, I was like,
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I just don't know if I am on board with this for me personally.
Sure.
But I have come to a place in my life where like, there was a long time where I resented a lot of my upbringing. And so then I would like make people feel like shit for their beliefs. And
Sure.
I don't live in that realm anymore.
Right.
And I try to respect what people believe in. And I try to find some nuggets of truth from like what people believe in. You know what I mean?
Right.
But no, I do not sit there and practice right hand magic.
I was just wondering, like,
That's a good question.
I want to practice it more.
Right.
you know?
Sometimes I wish it's like, I don't know. Sometimes I envy people who are religious. I'm like, that seems fun for you.
I had a moment before my first kid was born where I was having like a random existential crisis because someone said the word eternity and it just like really hit me. And I was like, eternity, that's that thing I always think about. And it like really like I spiraled and I was like, I better get this shit together before my kid's born. And it would have been nice if I was baptized into a religion where the answers were just written down.
Totally. See, it's kind of it's pressing the easy button. What I would suggest and what I will suggest for like my children is view religion in somewhat of the same realm as like philosophy. Try to learn all the different philosophies, try to learn all the different religions, and then come up with your own theory, dude.
Right.
Because no human has like special powers that I do not. So,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like,
What does Alan Watts say? Sorry, I interrupted you.
no, I love Alan Watts.
Alan Watts, one of his books, Become What You Are, I think, he says something to the effect of, religion should be a raft, use it to get across the river, and then leave it when you don't want to carry it anymore.
Awesome.
Like, that's a really good,
Really
like,
cool.
visual.
That's really cool. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah.
The extremists are not going to do that, I imagine.
The extremists are going to staple the raft to their fucking body, bro.
No sex, and there's no consequences for that.
Now, in Q's passionate analysis, there was little difference between the communist and capitalist systems. Both, he believed, attended only the material needs of humanity, leaving the spirit unsatisfied. He predicted that once the average worker lost his dreamy expectations of becoming rich, America would inevitably turn towards communism. Christianity would be powerless to block this trend because it exists only in the realm of the spirit, like a vision in a pure ideal world.
Whoa.
Now, Islam, on the other hand, is a complete system with laws, social codes, economic rules, and its own method of government.
A lot of it came after Muhammad, too. Sorry.
That's true. Only Islam offered a formula for creating a just and godly society. Thus, the real struggle would eventually show itself. It was not a battle between capitalism and communism. It was a battle between Islam and materialism. And inevitably, Islam would prevail. So that's a really important little key I want everyone to take here when it's like, what the fuck is Islamic extremism? Motherfuckers be hating materialism.
So when people say, like, they hate us because of our freedom, they're missing the point. Like, they don't hate you because of your fucking freedom. They don't like materialism,
Right.
which I think we've ranted and raved.
You can respect that, dude.
Yeah, we've gone against materialism many times on this podcast
Mm-hmm.
randomly. Like, I also don't like when Valley Girls buy a bunch of things and then, like, we extort, slave labor from other countries. Yeah, it's bad.
Yes.
Naughty.
It is a little odd to print Black Lives Matter t-shirts out of Nike when there's a bunch of, people in slave labor making shoes.
Sure.
You know?
Yep.
Okay. So, all of these are good points, but again, we're going to get into the extremist part here.
Yeah, I like the idea. Don't take it too far, though, extremists.
No.
And they don't.
What is the
they do.
What's the term, dude? Everything in moderation, even moderation.
Yep.
While Q was living in the United States, he got word that Hassan al-Banna got assassinated. Now, Hassan was a member of the Muslim Brotherhood, which was founded in 1928 and aimed to turn Egypt into an Islamic state. The Muslim Brotherhood was a huge part of the genesis of spreading the Islamic insurgency across the Arab world. Q found himself in a good spot. One of the leaders of the Muslim Brotherhood was killed. Now was a good time to swoop in and express some of his extreme ideas and provide direction for those vulnerable enough to accept help. Now, our boy Q returned to Cairo August 20th, 1950. And instead of becoming liberalized by his experiences in America, he returned even more radicalized. Moreover, his sour impressions, when published, would profoundly shape Arab and Muslim perceptions of the United States.
You gotta love it. I went to America. I didn't like it.
Not for me. Too much drunk women wanting to sleep with me.
Yeah. I didn't know the Muslim Brotherhood was founded so long ago.
1928?
Yeah.
Does that... See, I see in my mind, I was like, that's really recent.
Oh, really? I was like, that's a lot. I assumed it was a newer faction that pretended to be old.
Interesting.
But I was wrong on that. That's interesting. I was way off.
Yeah. So there's a lot of reference to the Muslim Brotherhood. Again, it was aiming to make Egypt into an Islamic state.
Okay.
So a lot of times throughout history, we're gonna find out in this little story here, but leaders of Arab countries would be complicit and shake hands with, Western leaders so that they could, become more rich.
Right.
And then the Islamic, working man was like, y'all fucking suck.
Yeah.
And we're losing, we're poor, and now it's going against all of everything that the Quran says. So let's just turn this into an Islamic state.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Egypt has a storied past.
Does it? You don't say. Yeah, one of these days, let's just do an episode on Egypt.
On Egypt.
The white man in Europe or America is our number one enemy, Q declared. The white man crushes us underfoot while we teach our children about his civilization, his universal principles, and noble objectives. We are endowing our children with amazement and respect for the master who tramples our honor and enslaves us. Let us instead plant the seeds of hatred, disgust, and revenge in the souls of these children.
Oh, I liked the first half. The second half was really rough.
His central concern was modernity, modern values, secularism, rationality, democracy, subjectivity, individualism, mixing of the sexes, tolerance, materialism had infected Islam through the agency of Western colonialism. America now stood for all of that.
How do you get anybody else to buy in when one of your list is the word tolerance? You know what I don't like? I don't like tolerance. I think that's the issue here. I can't imagine any other human that I know in my life being like, yeah, fuck tolerance. That's the issue.
It's odd for us, dude, but we also don't fast every other day.
That's true.
We don't have all these like sets of codes and rules.
Some people need to fast every other day. Am I right?
It's okay, folks. He can say that. He's really fat.
We got some really big people here in California.
Well, actually, California is probably one of the healthier states.
That's true.
All right.
What do you do with really big students? I struggle with it.
Like, what do you mean, bro? Like how do you?
I have to like work on my seating chart. I'm like, that's a big ass student, and I like you, but I got to make sure that when you can't be in the middle desk, because how the fuck do you get into that middle desk? You got to be in an aisle desk.
Yeah. It's like an airplane situation where it's like, you're not getting the middle seat, bro.
I don't feel good doing it.
I can't even imagine.
And they
dude.
have to know because they're the only one that doesn't get moved. I just stick them in the corner and I work everything else around it.
They know.
They know. And they like look at me when I change. They're like, I changed the seating chart. And everyone's like, oh. And the big kid looks at me and they're like, no, you didn't change the seating chart.
We love heavier people.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yep.
I just want everyone to be healthy.
I was raised by one. Everything's good.
Yeah.
It's all good. Now, Q's extraordinary project was still emerging, and it was to take apart the entire political and philosophical structure of modernity and return Islam to its unpolluted origins. For him, that was a state of divine oneness, the complete unity of God and humanity. Separation of the sacred and the secular, state and religion, science and theology, mind and spirit, these were the hallmarks of modernity, which had captured the West. But Islam could not abide such divisions. In Islam, he believed, divinity could not be diminished without being destroyed. Islam was total and uncompromising. It was God's final word. Muslims had forgotten this in their enchantment with the West. And remember, West means materialism. Now, when Q returned to Egypt, the government ruled without popular authority at the whim of the occupying power. Although the British had nominally withdrawn from Cairo, concentrating their forces in the Suez Canal zone, the hand of empire still weighed heavy on the rest of capital. The British were present in the clubs, the hotels, the bars, the movie theaters, the European restaurants and department stores of this sophisticated, decadent city. As his people hissed, the obese Turkish king, Farouk, raced around Cairo in one of his 200 red automobiles, which is funny because having red cars was outlawed. So this dude's just, the point is that this dude is just running around living off of the wealth of like his complicity with the West, and all these people are starving and not, succeeding. And so this is why they're thinking that we can overturn the government and instill a Islamic state, and everything will turn to candies and gumdrops and lollipops. And
No
stuff.
issues.
No issues. In this rotten political environment, one organization steadily acted in the interests of the people, the Muslim Brotherhood. They created their own hospitals, schools, factories, and welfare societies.
That's not bad.
They even formed their own army and fought alongside the other Arab troops in Palestine. What does this sound like to you? It reminds me of the mob, like the mafia.
Bit.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's Sicily, right? Like they had problems with people raiding all of their citrus farms, and so Sicily were like, oh, well, what if we just fucking did it ourselves then?
Right.
And then we get the mob.
There you go.
Because the first international citrus traders were Sicily.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Bada boom, bada bing.
I think. I don't know. I'm pretty sure. I'm like 80% sure.
Well, I love that you said it with confidence.
I feel confident until I say it. I'm like, ooh, I'm on a microphone right now.
Repatriation. Now, although the Brotherhood was a mass movement, it was also intimately organized into cooperative families cells that contained no more than 5 members each, giving it a spongy, clandestine quality. Q was on the forefront of spreading a very similar message of the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt, which rejected the modern government and aimed to impose an Islamic extreme state in Egypt. This endeavor ultimately got him hung in 1966, making him a martyr for the cause of Islamic extremism echoing across the Arab world.
Don't kill them. Let them.
Oh, you think that that's bad?
Don't kill them.
It does cause extreme. Yeah.
Don't make a martyr.
Yeah, martyr is exactly what these people want. Well, I can't speak for Q, obviously.
Yeah.
But
because he did.
He's dead. Now, the man who would manifest Q's words, written from both America and the prisons of Egypt before he was hanged by a man by the name of Ayman al-Zawahiri. Does that name ring any bells?
It does.
You want to know why?
Why?
That's the dude that we drone striked.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. The under the Biden administration, al-Zawahiri was he's a second, essentially like Osama bin Laden 2.0. Okay. If that name sounds familiar, it's because we covered him a little bit when the United States recently assassinated him via drone strike and pulled it off with zero collateral damage under the Biden administration. I know that last little sentence is going to hurt people's feelings. Al-Zawahiri is hard for me to say, so I will henceforth be referring to him as Dr. Z, since he actually is a legit doctor. Now, the same year that Q went to the gallows, Dr. Z helped form an underground cell devoted to overthrowing the government and establishing an Islamist state. It is very important to know that until the end of World War II, there was little precedent in Islam for the anti-Semitism that was now warping the policies and society of the region. Jews had lived safely, although submissively, under Muslim rule for 1,200 years, enjoying full religious freedom. But in the 1930s, Nazi propaganda on Arabic language shortwave radio, coupled with slanders by Christian missionaries in the region, infected the area with this ancient Western prejudice. After the war, Cairo became sanctuary for Nazis, who advised the military and the government. The rise of the Islamist movement coincided with the decline of fascism, but they overlapped in Egypt, and the germ passed into a new carrier.
Again, anti-Nazi. And we're just saying it here first, folks.
Yeah.
Just really gonna push some boundaries. Anti-Nazis.
Not on board.
Nope. Don't like you.
No.
Man, that's crazy. This is a wild story.
Dude, yeah. Yep. Now, Dr. Z sought to restore the caliphate, which is the rule of Islamic clerics, which had formally ended in 1924 following the dissolution of the Ottoman Empire, but which had not exercised real power since the 13th century. Once the caliphate was established, Dr. Z believed Egypt would become a rallying point for the rest of the Islamic world, leading it in a jihad against the West. Then history would make a new turn, God willing, inshallah, Dr. Z later wrote, in the opposite direction against the empire of the United States and the world's Jewish government. And then the Soviet Union decided to invade Afghanistan, the lovely country also known as the Graveyard of Empires. Dope nickname.
That's pretty cool.
Dr. Z would regularly go to Afghanistan, where he observed the bravery of the Mujahideen, which translates to holy warrior. It was here that he realized that maybe Afghanistan would be the perfect place to recruit young men willing to fight for the jihad or Islamic extremism. It's here where America gets confused because we helped the Afghans fight against the Soviets.
Yes, we did.
So why on earth would they be so vehemently against an ally? Any guesses on that one?
No, all I can think about is us giving Osama bin Laden an RPG.
Yeah, right.
Right, this is that time period when we give him one. We're like,
Osama
here's
bin-
what you do.
Yeah.
You pull the trigger. You squeeze. Don't push it. You squeeze it slowly.
All of these people who became extremists were our ally.
Yeah. That's fucked.
Sure, we're taking Americans' help to fight the Russians, Dr. Z would say, but they're equally evil. How can you make such a comparison, said a reporter. There is more freedom to practice Islam in America than in Egypt. And in the Soviet Union, they closed down 50,000 mosques.
Thanks, reporter. I agree.
You don't see it because you're an American, said Dr. Z.
Damn it.
That just totally answers everyone's questions.
Yep.
So Afghanistan was able to accept America's help with the war against the Soviet Union and also maintain a hatred for them because they believed that America was only helping the Mujahideen to further their own agenda rather than altruistically helping a Muslim nation.
Fair.
Okay.
Fair.
Does that make sense?
That's fair.
It is kind of fair.
That's fair.
All right, folks. So
You read us correctly.
in other words, they didn't think that we were actually helping the Mujahideen because we were like, you know what? We just really want to help this Muslim nation. We were helping it because we hated the Soviet Union more than we loved the Mujahideen.
Have you ever
Which is true.
seen Paris is Burning?
No, what is that?
It's a great documentary, 1990s. It's about the 1980s transgender and like gay community in New York and Brooklyn doing like drag shows.
Whoa.
And they have like the origin of the terms reading and throwing shade. And like, that's the definition of reading. You're like, yeah, bitch, you only want us to further your cause. You don't give a shit about us. And then you just keep getting the thing anyway because you're like, I read you, but I'm fine.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And so that's like totally what a queen would say while they like also collected your money.
Okay,
So
okay.
They win in that exchange for sure.
Yes, queen. Now, Islam says, whatever good there is exists thanks to the sword, and in the shadow of the sword. People cannot be made obedient except with the sword. The sword is the key to paradise, which can be opened only for holy warriors, mujahideen.
It would be nice if the sword was a penis in this moment. Because it'd be less violent.
Oh, man. That's true. Well, maybe I don't
Maybe
know.
not. Maybe not.
Maybe not.
Then you get into
dude.
rape.
That's dark.
Anti-rape here, too.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin, for opening up that door. Now, the main object of the Islamist struggle was to impose Islamic Sharia law.
Yep.
They believe
There we
that
go.
the 500 Quranic verses that constitute the basis of Sharia are the immutable commandments of God, offering a road back to the perfected era of the Prophet. Much like other religious texts filled with flowery verbiage, the Quran has verses that some Muslims use to enforce Sharia law, which prescribes punishments for actions such as sneezing, wearing jewelry, adultery, drinking, but for some fucking reason, actions such as homicide didn't make the list.
You telling me that there is sneezing and infidelity are in the same category? is that what you're telling me here?
What if I sneeze while being an adulterer? Is that like a double jeopardy where it's okay if I do it at the same time kind of
That
thing?
is the kind of question.
Sneezing while having sex, folks. That's a fun one.
You know what I was thinking too, going over this, and they're orchestrating all these people and events, and like we can't get our fucking D&D group to meet up. And we've been trying for like 3 months, and like they're over here like getting extremist, like they're getting hanged or hunged. Who knows what the past participle is on that?
Real Mr. English teacher.
Yeah, that past participle is a bitch.
It is.
It is not,
Truly.
no good. But they're getting shit done, not for good. It sounds like in the long run. Yeah.
Now, once an American geologist finally found some oil in Saudi Arabia,
Yay.
the
No conflict there. It's gonna be good.
The United States had pitched its flag in the Middle East and sunk its heels into an ideology and political climate that would hold zero resemblance to themselves. Now, this is where our story with the bin Laden family begins. Osama bin Laden's dad was a very successful businessman who owned Saudi Arabia's most successful construction company. I believe it was called the Bin Laden Group. The Bin Laden Company even renovated the Grand Mosque in Mecca, which,
Whoa.
really exemplifies the scope of how wealthy this family is.
Imagine if you are one of the Bin Ladens who were like still like that's what you wanted to be known for. Like that was your passion. You're like, I'm a fucking
Construction?
like
Business?
I'm a mason, I deal in concrete and I make art.
Dude, they're out there.
And
there are Bin Ladens out there.
really,
right
and they're still trying to like push forward like
You will, if you drive around Saudi Arabia today, you will see like a Aramco. That's a Bin Laden. There's Bin Laden construction
Damn.
all over that place. You will see when driving down the highway, Bin Laden Group, Bin Laden Group, Bin Laden Group. It's a huge business, bro.
That's
it's
crazy.
A huge company.
It makes me think of like my siblings trying to like do something with their life, and they're like, also there's this other Parker who's doing battle buddies and like really putting your name to shame, but like they're trying to like you make the name good. Like that's kind of like the Bin Ladens, but with no violence.
It's nothing like the Bin Laden.
It's just not similar in any way, but it's there.
I appreciate you for trying.
I tried.
Yeah, so for those of you who are like, man, I'm sure Osama bin Laden grew up in humbled beginnings. Like, no, the fuck he did not.
No, he
Now,
did not.
that being said, like, his dad did have so many fucking children that he didn't necessarily spend hella time with each child.
Sure.
So these children did get like frayed throughout the Middle East and didn't necessarily get a bunch of, fatherly attention.
That matters.
Arguably, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, in Osama's 14th year, he experienced a religious and political awakening. Some ascribe this change to a charismatic Syrian gym teacher at the school who was a member of the Muslim Brothers. Osama stopped watching cowboy shows. Outside of school, he refused to wear Western dress. Sometimes he would sit in front of the television and weep over the news from Palestine.
Did you just backing up? Did you say the gym teacher?
Like he had a Syrian gym teacher that apparently was like super charismatic, and because
charismatic while teaching them Foursquare.
Osama bin Laden was a good soccer player.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. I didn't know that.
So he was really into gym class. So I could, yes. You know how teacher, dude, you're a teacher. Like it only takes one teacher that really.
I ruin kids' dreams every day.
Kevin is a good teacher, folks. I can guarantee you.
I sit on top of a table lately and I gavel. I have a gavel and I gavel
For
hard.
those who don't know you, you make yourself sound like an asshole teacher. It's just funny because Kevin is like a sweetheart, folks. So it's just funny to hear him talk. All right. His mom said in his teenage years, he was the same nice kid, but he was more concerned, sad, and frustrated about the situation in Palestine in particular, and in the Arab and Muslim world in general. He tried to explain his feelings to his friends and family, but his passion left them confused. He thought Muslims are not close enough to Allah, and Muslim youth are too busy playing and having fun, his mom concluded. He began fasting twice a week on Mondays and Thursdays in emulation of the Prophet. Bin Laden has largely been regarded as the founder of Al-Qaeda, which in English translates to the leaders. Al-Qaeda is truly an accumulation of people with corresponding ideas, which is mainly to enforce Islamic states and wipe out the West, which again in their minds means materialism. Osama bin Laden's biggest message to his constituents was this: if we can manage to have the United States attack us and get involved in a war, once they lose enough people, they will surely give up and lose. They have done that in the past with previous conflicts, and they will do it in the future.
Shout out to Vietnam.
Correct. He usually literally gives Vietnam as an example. The moment the U.S. loses too many people, they tend to pivot and pull out. Yep. Hence 9/11 and the war on terror, although that only took us 20 years to pull out, so I am not sure bin Laden's hypothesis on the matter was totally correct.
No, he forgot the sunken cost fallacy.
Oh, what? Can you paraphrase?
This is what we all do, right? Like, we commit to something, and then it's not working, and then we're like, well, we already committed to it. Might as well double down on that. And then we do that over and over again. And, I think individuals do it, and I think organizations do it.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
It's such a hard thing to break. Even knowing that you are going to commit it, you still commit it, which is frustrating.
Yeah, I didn't know that was what it was called. Sunken cost fallacy?
Yeah.
Interesting. Was this a Freakonomics thing?
No, but they do talk about it.
Okay.
But yeah, it's just like one of those philosophical things. Like, it just comes up a lot because humans do it. Like, it's just, you can
totally.
predict.
I do it. We all do it.
Yeah, we all do it.
100%. I'm trying to think of examples of where I've done it.
I do too much.
It's kind of like when you're a kid. Oh, never mind. I was going to make a masturbation joke. I can't do it. Can't do it.
Sorry, Mom.
It was a good one too, but whatever. All right, we'll just do it.
Spencer tries his best to make a masturbation joke and is immediately embarrassed.
Sure. I don't know if that actually applies. We'll cut this, but
yeah, go ahead and cut that part out.
Yep.
Maybe insert a good idea.
A good little story.
Yeah, we'll do that in post. since we're on the subject of Osama bin Laden, I'm going to briefly explain like what the Taliban is, right? Because we're going to be kind of like venturing into Afghanistan. And
Are you telling me Al-Qaeda is not the Taliban?
That's why we have this episode, bro.
Damn.
Now in the future, folks, for those of you listening, when someone's like, hey, what's the difference between Al-Qaeda and Taliban? You can be like, battle buddies. Battle buddies! You can just show them this episode. And that's why we're here.
That's why we're here.
Just wonderful education. So the Taliban rose up in 1994 as a small group of students. That's what the word Taliban means. It means students.
Al-Qaeda means leaders. Taliban means students.
Correct. Most of them orphans who had been raised in the refugee camps and who were outraged by the chaos and depravity of the rule of the Mujahideen.
God damn it.
Yeah. The liberators in the war against the Soviets had turned out to be more barbaric rulers than their enemy. Stirred to action by the misery that victory had brought to Afghanistan, the Taliban arose with stunning swiftness. Thanks to the support of Pakistani intelligence, they were transformed from a populist militia into a formidable, highly mobile guerrilla army on the verge of consolidating their rapid rise to power as they stood on the outskirts of Kabul, raining rockets into the ruins.
How am I supposed to hate them?
You can't. Right now, you can't.
Right.
No, that's tight.
They're fucking orphans who are like, I'm sick of this shit.
They're called the students.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's a good name.
Yeah, and they're rising up against the Mujahideen, which they ended up sucking after they didn't have an enemy to fight, which we're gonna realize that this is an ideology where if you don't have an enemy, they're gonna make one.
Yeah.
So where is Al-Qaeda today, and what does Islamic extremism look like now in a post-war on terror? Now, listeners and Kevin, I have definitely kind of left out a huge chunk of like 9/11 and the war on terror because we're going to get there.
Right.
We're obviously going to find battles and talk about war. I
want to talk about the battles between the CIA and the people they were interrogating.
So I would love to get there, yeah. And so me and Kevin are working on talking to some veterans who were involved in different battles, and so yes, I'm skipping out a lot of that because this is background about Islamic extremism, not about certain battles.
Sure.
Now, let's talk about Sunnis versus Shia real quick. The division between Shia and Sunni dates back to the death of the Prophet Muhammad in 632.
There we go.
This event raised the question of who was to take over the leadership of the Muslim nation. Sunnism is the largest and most orthodox branch of Islam. I said earlier that it's 90% of Muslims.
Yep.
The word Sunn in Arabic comes from the meaning one who follows the traditions of the Prophet. Sunni Muslims agree with many of the Prophet's companions at the time of his death that the new leader should be elected from among those capable of the job. For example, following Prophet Muhammad's death, his close friend and advisor Abu Bakr became the first caliph.
Right.
Shia Muslims believe that following the Prophet Muhammad's death, leadership should have passed directly to his cousin and son-in-law. Throughout history, Shia Muslims have not recognized the authority of elected Muslim leaders, choosing instead to follow a line of imams which they believe have been appointed by the Prophet Muhammad or God himself. Al-Qaeda falls under the category of the Sunnis. They would have to be because they obviously try and follow the Prophet to a T, which would in theory make them Sunnis or fundamentalists. The vast majority of Muslims are Sunni Muslims, with a staggering 90% of those who practice Islam. Al-Qaeda today has less presence in our news cycle because the United States is no longer at active war with terror. I'm going to give you kind of a little interesting anecdote here. I was doing an after-school program with kids at the Wilsey Wood High School where kids from your school were coming over to use the weight room and work out.
Yeah.
And so there's a student at Wilsey Wood who is in the Army. He's in his senior year of high school, and he went and did boot camp over summer, and now he's finishing out high school while he is active duty in the Army.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's intense.
And so I asked him if, when he got out of boot camp, if he got his national defense ribbon. He did not. So your brother, Kevin, and my brother, and me all joined during a time of war. So we got out of boot camp with a national defense service ribbon. It just means that you joined during a time of war. Kids getting out of boot camp right now are not getting that.
Interesting.
Because we're not at war.
Yeah.
So it's just like that's just physical like proof that we are not actively anywhere, and the whole idea of war on terror is really something that us millennials remember from like the Bush era.
Right.
I
remember it from 6th grade.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. I don't remember Obama saying anything about war on terror.
No.
I don't think Trump said anything about it. I'm certainly not hearing Biden say anything about it.
I don't listen to anything Biden says, to be honest. Okay. I'll read it, but...
No, dude, I don't think... we don't have to get into that. All right. So that's a good thing. We are not at war with terror.
That's not bad. You don't get an ornament, which I'm sad about, because ornaments are nice.
Yeah, it's a cool thing. Now, Al-Qaeda is now mainly splintered across the Arab world. They no longer have an enemy to actively fight, much like the Taliban, so they find themselves amongst an identity crisis. After we successfully killed Dr. Z with ground troops, Al-Qaeda finds itself wondering what exactly it's supposed to do.
They're me right before my first son is born after hearing the word eternity. What do I do now?
Exactly.
It's the exact same.
It's verbatim. Like
maybe
100%.
The stakes aren't as high for me. Maybe. I don't know.
Arguable. There's some arguments to be had there.
Yeah.
Now, in my theory here, when the United States is no longer involved overseas, the splintered subgroups of Islamic extremists find themselves fighting with each other.
Yeah.
The United States is now carrying out missions to eliminate high-valued individuals, which is what it should have been doing the whole fucking time. And as long as the United States maintains air superiority and withholds the temptation to engage in a fight with lots of human numbers, Islamic extremism will be only really kind of fighting each other. The less other countries need to rely on resources available in the Middle East, the less diplomacy will care about their violent endeavors. So, what the fuck is ISIS?
Yeah, what is ISIS?
I am reading this little kind of synopsis of ISIS that I got from a Georgetown University website. Shout out to Georgetown University.
I like Georgetown stuff.
Dude, me too.
Yeah, Georgetown stuff's legit.
It is. As a result of its different priorities, ISIS pursues another set of strategies to achieve its objectives. In contrast to Al-Qaeda, its main target is not the West, but rather Shia and other religious minorities as well as apostate Sunnis in the Arab world. Seeking to control land, consolidate and expand by using its army to conquer more territory, it applies methods of conventional warfare when sweeping into new areas of defending existing holdings. Suicide bombings are used as part of these warfare tactics to undermine morale in the security forces. The group efficiently promotes a badass ideology. A professor literally wrote this. A badass ideology via social media and promises financial and sexual rewards to attract fighters.
Come on, man. I read through The Heart and Minds.
I know, you're our guy, bro.
The Al-Nava is not that great.
So what's the difference? Al-Qaeda is mainly at war with the West, while ISIS is mainly at war with other Muslims.
Yeah, that's
Both
true.
are trying to enforce an Islamic State, and that's pretty much that, folks.
So we have all these songs against the Taliban. We have 2 Taliban songs by country artists.
The Taliban.
The Taliban. But we have nothing against ISIS fighting the Taliban.
Well, yeah, because ISIS is against other Muslims. So stupid Americans who don't listen to this podcast are like, well, they're not really our enemy because they're fighting themselves. Go ISIS. I like that. Isn't ISIS just the intelligence on that show Archer?
Is that what the intelligence is?
It is actually, yeah. Yeah. So yeah, man. As we move on into our battle buddies journey, Kevin likes to cover Al-Shabaab. That's just a subsect of Islamic extremism. We don't need an entire episode on that. It really is just, they are Sunni Muslims who want to create an Islamic State wherever Al-Shabaab is based out of. That's Africa, right?
That's Africa.
Do you know where in Africa?
I think it's sub-Saharan, I think. So
Okay.
it's usually Lake Chad for like everything. But like that Boko Haram is mainly Lake Chad.
So Boko Haram is another Islamic extremist group, which is a Sunni group, and they're trying to create an Islamic State. It's one of these things, folks, where we get confused by all these different names. But I like to use the example of just imagine what someone from South America or Africa, when they're learning about all the different subsects of Christianity in the United States, like you're a Pentecostal. What is that?
What's a Protestant? I don't get the difference between Protestant and a Christian.
Presbyterian.
Yeah.
What is this? Your Assembly of God, Mormon. What is all these things?
Why do Lutherans pretend to be nice?
Is this a joke?
I feel like Lutherans are always the nicest, and then I read through their stuff and I'm like, you're mean in the text. You're nice in person. Okay. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but like that's been my experience as a human.
Dude, well, then just hey man, share your experience.
Is that wrong? Is Lutheran? I don't know enough about.
I thought Lutherans were cool with like gay people though.
My personal experience has been Lutherans in person are like, yeah, everyone's chill. And then when you read through the stuff, you're like, y'all going to hell.
If by this,
every single one of you.
If by the stuff, do you just mean the Bible?
No, like in
pamphlets?
Yeah, like the Bible, like their interpretation of the Bible.
Got it.
Because it's not about the Bible. It's just like with all these extremists. It's not about what Muhammad said. It's about what the person after Muhammad said.
And so this is exactly. So here what Kevin just said about Lutherans. There's some dude from Al-Shabaab being like, I don't know, man. Boko Haram, though, they all seem like assholes. Exactly. And it's like, it's the same shit.
Yeah, exactly. Because after Muhammad died, there was a bunch of legal shit that happened with like, well, what do we haven't been writing this down. Like we've been saying it and like, we've been having people remember the Quran, but like maybe we should write it down. And then other people are like, oh, I don't know if we should write it down right away. And then there was a bunch of stuff with that.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, there was like a whole bunch of shit with that.
I'd like to know about that. So like as time progresses, I mean, I'm currently reading through the Quran. I didn't finish it before this episode, but this isn't going away.
No.
The whole idea of Islamic states is pretty fascinating to me.
Yes.
And
I hate that I don't hate them at the start of any of these stories when they're like, they were orphans who were ravaged by war between the East and the West of the Soviet Union and America. Like, yeah, fuck us. Wait. Can we all live in peace?
Yeah, and even this like Q guy, like, man, I've been a pop punker who, didn't get laid a lot and was like really, tormented by all that. And like, I get it, bro.
Sure.
And then you make horrible masturbation jokes on a podcast and ask your buddy to get rid of it and post.
We cut it.
That's right.
It doesn't exist, guys.
That's right.
It's gone forever. Masturbation joke. Yeah, Q's interesting, especially because I keep seeing him as the white guy in Star Trek Next Generation, spouting like really extreme Egyptian version of Islam.
Yeah, man, Saeed, this is kind of where I had to start with that because I mean the book really starts with that to be like, this dude's writings is really what got people like on the boat of like, holy shit. We really should overthrow the government and start an Islamic State, But now that you guys have heard this, I do highly recommend if you don't want to read The Looming Tower, you've basically, by listening to this, you've heard about 30% of the book. The TV show on Hulu, The Looming Tower, it doesn't really cover any of what we spoke about in this episode, and it's mainly about the CIA and FBI squandering information, just absolutely dropping the ball on all of this loads of information that we had. And because they were so like prideful of being like, well, we have the information and we don't want to share it with the FBI, hundreds and thousands we went to war because we went to war. So people died at the end of the day because information was not shared.
That's exactly how we ended part 3 of the fucking Vietnam series.
There you go.
Was Hal being pissed because...
Are we seeing a theme here in war, dude?
That bad.
Sometimes information is not shared and people die.
Well, have you watched the Report with Adam Driver on Amazon?
No, dude, you told me
Yeah,
to.
it's interesting.
I want to. I love watching movies about...
That's more it's immediately post 9/11, but it's the same shit.
You said it is about torture, right?
Yeah, it's about the interrogation techniques, but it's about like how the interrogation techniques were founded by like a family psychologist who happened to be in the Air Force, like
Okay.
a psychiatrist. He's like, yeah, my PhD is in family psychiatry, and it's about like making pottery. I have this idea for like how you can torture some people, and like I think it's pretty good. Play some loud music and make them naked, and then we'll see what happens after that.
Yeah, that's like psychological warfare shit. I mean,
Yep.
they do that at SEER training for like American troops
Yeah,
and shit.
but like it doesn't work. It's not effective. I will tell you anything as soon as you start physical pain.
Whoa. We figured this out from reading that book about the Donner Party.
Yes.
Starve them, bro.
Yeah.
Motherfuckers will start speaking if they want food.
Yeah, exactly. And like it's all really bad information that you get. Like what we found, I think it was a Nazi who found it. But like, if you're just hella nice to people that you capture,
Right.
they'll tell you anything, and
Yeah,
it's
you were talking about that,
really,
dude.
really good advice. Like it's like really good information every time.
Play a game of horse.
Yeah.
Some basketball.
Yeah,
Shoot some hoops.
Shoot
and
some
people will
hoops.
talk. Yeah, dude. I work with students all the time, and when I have to get information about certain things going on and relay it to administration, like, oh, how did you get them to tell you that? I'm like, oh, dude, we walked around the track and talked about video games for
Yep.
like 30 minutes
every
prior.
time.
And then they were like, hey, by the way, schnooby dooby ding dong. And I'm like, ooh, thank you. I will not tell anybody. And then I tell someone.
Yeah, except for that my legal mandate says I have to tell everyone.
Except being a mandated reporter, right. So yeah, man.
Interesting. Thank you.
Since you were the obviously didn't read any literature on the did that feel like a pretty concise little clump of you understand
Yeah.
Islamic extremism now?
I feel like I get it.
Okay. Going forward, I feel like this is going to help us cover Eddie's episodes with Al-Shabaab and
Yeah.
things like that a little bit more.
I think the thing that's just like hard, it's just there's no relatable like analogy. Like I've just been crushing it with these analogies today, like, you know, my life versus these extremists who have been orphaned by war. But 90% of the Sunnis, like 90% of Muslims being Sunnis, but then also that the terrorist organization also being Sunnis, that's not like applicable to like our life.
Right.
And so that's like a hard thing to visualize and to understand. I'm trying to wrap my mind around that right now. And maybe that's not the takeaway you wanted, but like
No,
that's
dude,
that's definitely one of the takeaways for me is like, oh shit, there's nothing like that here.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
It is very, very, very interesting. And I was listening to prepare for this. I listened to a podcast of Lex Friedman. I don't know if you know who
No.
that is. So he's like he makes robots, and he's like went to MIT, and he just likes intellectuals to come on his podcast and they talk about whatever.
Sure.
And so he had a man named Omar Suleiman on his podcast, who is a renowned practitioner of Islam, and they just speak about Islam for like 3.5 hours. And there's a part where, you know, it's really interesting to see people who just are such good human beings that practice Islam and how they try to rationalize all the like atrocious shit that is connected to their religion.
Sure.
And it's really sad, dude, because at the end of the day, like, it kind of is. And so, you know, he was making arguments such as like, you know, when you look at World War II, you know, zero conflict in World War II had to do with religion. And it's like, I just like highly disagree with that,
Yeah.
actually. I even gave a speech in one of my English classes in college that Nazism was a fucking religion. It was a belief system.
Absolutely.
It was blind faith involved in a lot of it. Like, that's a religion, bro. And it was inexorably intertwined with government, which is exactly what these extremists are trying to do. They're like, let's overthrow the government and make an Islamic state. Like, it's just a thing. And so, you know, it's interesting to see how they try to cope with the fact that some pretty atrocious shit has happened. And, you know, he even made a joke at one point where he was like, you know, before we do certain things, we have to say Allahu Akbar, which of course means, you know, I'm going to kill you now. I'm like, that's not funny.
Yeah.
It's not funny.
That's
bro.
my least favorite joke middle schoolers say.
It's not good. And, you know, I believe it means like glory be to God or something like that. Is like a rough translation.
I think it's something, or God is love or something like that. I think it's God is love.
something
like
about God, and
it's a positive about God, which makes it really confusing when they do it before a terrorist act.
And that's the thing is like, how do you rationalize that as somebody who just like, oh man, Islam has changed my life and I'm a better person because of it, and then something like 9/11 happens, it's like, well, that's not really Islam, and it's like, but it is to them.
Sure.
So that means something.
I will tell you so many times people have, because I'm a seeker, right? I've talked to my wife a lot about this. After we've listened to so many true crimes and cults and stuff, and we've both come to the realization that I absolutely will get involved with a cult at one point in my life if I'm not careful, because I seek it out. Like, I want to know what's going on in the world, and like, I want to better myself, and like, yeah, like I want something to live my life by. But it's a little rough.
Yeah, see, if you are a seeker, bro, that's like who they're looking for. Yeah. It's definitely religion and cults alike look for people in very vulnerable states who are like, I'm just looking for answers. So it's like, well, you've come to the right place.
Exactly. And there's been multiple people through college and grad school and after who are like, I think God put me on this path to like help you get into Christianity. I'm like, I just don't fucking think so. But I don't want to be mean because like I get it, because I am seeking it out, like as we talk. So I'll say something like, I don't get why a little girl in Afghanistan who dies from a bomb that we dropped has to go to hell because they didn't get baptized.
Right.
And I feel bad even saying that, because I'm like, I'm being a dick, and like I know I'm being a dick. But you're asking me to convert to a religion that I don't understand, and so like I need you to answer this, and then you just say like, I can't answer that question, that you're an asshole. I'm like, I know.
Well, dude, like, what is she saying? Orange is the new black? Like, I don't believe a billion Indians are going to hell.
Right.
A billion Indians.
This is exactly my, like, I would get on board with your religion so much faster if you're like, everyone goes to heaven. Like, fucking like that.
What religion is that? Yeah. Yeah. Again, dude, I am more than willing to have long form conversations with anybody who has a background with whatever religion. I myself grew up in a religion, so like I understand. I have compassion for it.
Sure,
I understand it, and as Buddhism says,
there we go.
Understanding is forgiving. And
the Japanese Buddhists also very violent.
Look, shout out to the Rohingyas in Myanmar. Remember we talked about this? Did. Yeah, the Buddhist nationalists are killing Muslims for the sake of being Muslims. That's not good.
Not great. Not what we like here at Battle Buddies.
Anti.
Man.
Where are we going next, bro? We got an At Ease episode next week, and then where's our journey taking us?
You know, I do think that it's time that we're on all these modern conflicts.
The Gaul.
I want to fucking go to the Gaul. I've been reading through Caesar's campaign of the Gaul. Listen to Dan Carlin's
I love it.
Gallic campaign. And we just need to have some fun. And it's...
Are you ready for that? You have literature for us.
I do. We're going to read a primary source, which is cool. So we've been reading mainly secondary sources. So we are technically a tertiary source, which is not always my favorite source to be. But although... We read We Were Soldiers, and that was technically primary.
Totally.
But we'll be reading Caesar's campaign as like our primary source, and that's
I like it.
Translated from Caesar.
I like it.
It's fun, and also like Dan Carlin put it out, but most people can't get through Dan Carlin's 18 hours of him improving. I can, because I fucking love every second of it. I've listened to that episode so many times.
Which one is it?
It's his King of Kings. The Gallic Holocaust is what he calls it.
Oh.
No, it's not the King of Kings. The King of Kings is the Persia one. It's the Gallic Holocaust.
I probably have to go purchase that one on the internet.
No, it's one of the last free ones. It's going to go away soon, though.
Oh, okay.
I imagine.
I love Dan Carlin,
Yeah,
dude.
Dan Carlin's great.
History is cool, guys.
It's fun.
That's what me and Mr. Parker over here aim to make learning fun.
It's easier to make fun of people that are killing each other when it happened thousands of years ago. Is also that's a real thing.
Dude, totally true. Yeah, like when we talked about the Spartans.
Yeah,
it was like,
it was hella fun. Those fucking Spartans. They're fucking each other and killing each other.
Nobody likes to talk about that, but we do here at Battle Buddies.
And then you go to the Vietnam one, we're like, we're gonna be very careful.
Well, that was recent. There are Vietnam vets on the street as we speak. Sad face.
Damn.
Yeah. Okay, I like it. That's fun for me.
Let's do it.
I'm down, dude.
Okay.
I'm definitely down. So just let me know what I need to read or if I need to be the everyman or what you want me to do.
We'll do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you for listening to this episode on Islamic extremism.
Yeah, hit us up on everything.
Yeah, dude,
everything,
please.
right?
As a matter of fact, if you made it this far, can you rate us wherever you listen to us? That'd be really cool.
Oh,
If you
yeah,
could
we
rate
forgot to
us.
say, we've been trying to, we got to be reaching out more on call to actions, but the best thing you can do to support us is to recommend us to your friend.
Totally.
The best way to spread a podcast is to
Copy-
personally recommend it.
Copy link and share it to someone you think would giggle.
Yes.
Please.
It is by far the best way over and over again to spread an actual podcast.
And then rate it.
Yeah, rating it would be great.
If you rate it, then it will link us up with other podcasts that people think would like, and then
There's an algorithm. There's an
and then
algorithm.
math. Does that make sense?
I'm not good at math. Man, every once in a while I'll get a kid like, Ms. Barker, can you do the math? I'm like, fuck you. Yeah, I'll do the
Actually,
math.
that's what your math teacher is for.
I figure it out. But sometimes they're like, hold on, I got to do something really quick for English stuff. And then I run over and I Google what they're doing.
Nice.
And I read it through. I'm like, yeah, I can bullshit this. Dude.
Yeah,
And I
for
run
sure,
back.
for sure. We love you guys.
Yeah, thank you all.
Bonsai.
Bonsai.